Hey folks, welcome to Wolfen's Gaming 10. Today we're going to unbox the game Imperium Classics, designed by Nigel Buckle and David Durkee. Imperium Classics is one of two games in the same line, I think is the best way to describe it. The other one is called Imperium Legends. Now that one has sort of like a fantasy tinged factions that you can play with, whereas this is just thematically at least a little bit more realistic and grounded in actual civilizations that have taken place historically. So for this one, if we quickly look at the back, this is a standalone game, so it's the other one that contains the Carthaginian, Celt, Greek, Macedonian, Persian, Roman, Scythian, and Viking civilizations. So that's about 8 civilizations you get in this box, and the other one has a set of 8 as well. So it's a card-driven civilization game that is basically played out between 1 to 4 players. So there's a solo mode in there as well. I mean, it's a David Durkee game, so of course it does. And the game schedule is rated at 40 minutes per player. So if you're playing with a full set of 4 players, it can really add up at that point. So perhaps maybe a game that you can try it with a smaller player count. But generally, the aesthetics so far look quite decent. It is, of course, published by Osprey Games, and I do tend to like games put out by Osprey Games. They usually tend to have good production quality and good quality components in there. So I'm expecting nothing different for this one. So let's crack into it, and then I'll be happy to share my thoughts on the cover, artwork, and components inside. Right, so with that removed, obviously the cover, I do like the looks of it. You do get to see sort of like representation from some of the factions in the game, I suppose, in here. It's a bit of a traditional look, but I don't mind that quite as much. I do like the artwork that I can see here so far. And in the back, of course, you can see that the game is going to be heavily card-driven, so that's where you get to see the cards in here. We don't really get to see a board or anything, and I don't think there is one in the game, but we'll see. Let's crack into it and find out what's actually inside then. Good thickness on the board, on the box cover rather, sorry. And it looks like there's a bit of a pattern that's inside the, oh sorry about that, inside the lid of the box, so that's there. The first thing we see once we crack into it is the rule book, and it's a nice, simple, elegant design up front. On the back of it, there's a quick reference sheet, so it gives you a quick overview of the different actions you can take on your turn, which is quite handy. Now, the game is not particularly light from what I understand. Again, I'm unboxing this, so I have not played the game before, but I expect there to be a few different rule aspects in here, and this tells you sort of like, you know, the different factions you get with the classics as well as with the legends. So this is the one that we have here. I will have a separate unboxing video for Imperium Legends, so if you're interested in that, I'll have the link for that down below. Go check that out. That should be pretty interesting as well. And here we get to see some of the different components that come in this particular game. A quick overview of what the cards will look like. So full-size art by the look of things, which is not bad. Breakdown of the cards. Setup and how that works. I'll maybe just put this down a bit so that we can see the whole overview. We have the common setup. Then we move on to the how to play section. So you activate, innovate, revolt, cleanup, shuffling, solstice, game end, scoring. So from an action point of view, it does not look like there's a lot that goes on in here. So that's interesting. It looks like a large part of the book is going to be clarifying some game-related or rules-related aspects, as it were. All right, so let's keep on marching through. We get to see the keywords, so nice to have that in there. Hopefully that will help clarify a lot of the questions that might come up as you play the game, and it looks like there's a lot of those. And then, of course, you have the nations outlined as well. And the interesting thing is that all of these different factions come with their own difficulty rating. So if you're playing this game with somebody more experienced or less experienced than you can choose factions to tailor that out a little bit. And thematically, what I understood is that some of the factions in Classics are a little bit easier to play compared to some of the factions in Legends. So Legends will have Arthurians, which is, as you can see here, rated 5 out of 5. Utopians, again, rated another 5 out of 5. Others are somewhere in between. But you don't really get to see any low difficulty in there, whereas with Classics, you do get to see a bunch of 2s. There's a 1 in there for Macedonian, so that might be a good one for you to start off with. Same with Persians, same with Romans. So there is a little bit of smattering of that. So if you're only picking up one of the two boxes, Imperium Classics might be the one for you to get into if you're looking for something that's a bit of an easier one to delve in. There's also a solo rulebook, and that's interesting. I wonder if you have sort of like missions or scenarios or whatnot that you're playing out. But you have your setup screen, there's the common setup, then you're setting up the bot, so it looks like there's going to be an AI that you would play with. There's a how to play, changes to gameplay, difficulty levels that you can play with, and there's a whole range of them. You can play with the Chieftain, Warlord, Imperator, Sovereign, Overlord, different difficulty levels, so that's interesting. Campaign mode, so that's always exciting. If you're playing a solo game, you want something with a little bit more meat in there with the campaign or scenario based setup, and it looks like it definitely has a bit of that. So you have these for the different nations. Nice. It gives you the different campaign scenarios for actually all the different factions in here, which is really, really good. So regardless of who you fancy, it's all in here. And it looks like they have the same thing for the other faction in here as well, which is interesting. Huh. I wonder if it's like a common rule book for both of these. And then, of course, you have a campaign log that you can keep, and you get the same quick reference sheet in here. I assume there's going to be a bit of a difference between these two, because obviously this is the solo one versus this is sort of like the main one. But just at a quick glance, they do seem identical. So, yeah, maybe if you're playing with two players, you can just hand one of these out to each and use these as well. But those were the books that came in here. Now, cards are going to be a big part of this, so I expect a lot of cards in here, and we can obviously see that these are all neatly laid out with a dice in there as well. But let's have a look at the cardboard punch outs first. And these are tokens or counters, and they're all punching out fairly easily. Not a lot of artwork on these, but I assume that these are meant to be more functional than anything else. Then you get a sort of like a small board. I understand that this will go with the cards laid out in the row in front of you. But either ways, these are punching out well. Thickness is not bad. So that's there. Let's move these to the side. And then we have more or less pretty much the same thing with these two. So I'm not going to go through these because I think we had a good look at the other one there. Now the dice in here this is big and chunky with rounded edges. So it's nice. It's looks like a standard D6. Yeah. Nothing exceptional, but overall, standard D6, but good quality D6. So that's there. Now, I assume that these are going to be different factions and some of the market cards perhaps in here. So let's crack into these and see what they look like. And maybe I'll just quickly zoom in because I want to show you guys something. So you can see here that you have labels for what cards actually go into each of these. So this is for the Carthaginians, for the Romans. So that's really neat stuff. Celts, and so on, I guess. Uncivilized, well, apparently you can be uncivilized in this game as well. Yeah. Region cards. So these are all labeled. I'm not going to go through all of these, but it is good to know that underneath here you will have the labels for the different cards you can put in that particular slot. And it looks like there might be room in here for these to be sleeved as well, possibly. I do want to sleeve these, so it will be great if that works out as well. But let's have a look at some of the cards that we get in here. So this is a Carthaginian deck, and this comes with the sleeve cover, which obviously you can get rid of. Cardstock is all right, not too bad. The finish on this is good as well. And starting at looking at the Carthaginian deck, this is a double-sided card, whereas the others are not. The others have the standard back that we can see in most of this game. This sort of like is the faction card from what I understand. You can choose one of the two sides you want to play the game with, and you'll make that choice at the start of the game. I'll quickly zoom in so that we can have a look at some of the artwork on this. Yeah, I mean, it's bright and colorful. Artwork covers most of the card itself. Some of these do repeat, like this one, for example, did repeat. But most of these do seem to be unique in here, which is nice. As far as the artwork is concerned, there is a I don't know what's a good way of describing it. It's almost like a comic book style artwork, but like a specific style of comic book artwork in here. So whether you like this or not is going to depend on how you feel about this art style. For me, I would say that I'm neutral on it. There are definitely other art styles that I'm a lot more excited about. I do like to see a little bit more realistic artwork on these, or if you're going to have sort of like a comic book style artwork, then I do prefer cleaner lines as opposed to what we have in here. But it's a matter of personal preference, and I want to be very explicitly clear on that. I think that's a matter of personal preference for me, as opposed to an actual criticism of the artwork on the card itself. Because if you're into this kind of art style, then these are actually not bad. These are quite decent. They somehow remind me of Raiders of the North Sea and sort of like that line of games in terms of some of the aesthetics. Yeah, so that's this deck. And given the fact that this is such a card-driven game, maybe I'll just go through a few more of these factions so that we can get a good sense of these. So here we have the cards for the Romans. Again, full-size artwork, which is very, very nice. Julius Caesar, military engineering, Roman invasion, legions, Senate, Rome the city. So again, artwork continues to be quite decent. Now the unrest cards do seem to be common between the different decks, and perhaps there are some other cards that may be common as well. But for the most part, there do seem to be a lot of cards in here that are specific to the faction or the civilization in question. So I think that's really great of that. So I'll put this back inside. These are the Celts, and just at first glance, all of these decks don't seem to have the same number of cards in there. I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but just thought I'd call that out. And again, we go with some nice little artwork over here for the Celts. So this is the main faction card. Celtic Gold, Celtic Innovation, Chainmail. Yeah, again, lots of faction-specific cards, which I'm absolutely loving. Nice. And then a whole bunch of unrest cards for the Celts. So not sure what's happening with this particular civilization, but it looks like there's going to be unique, not just unique cards, but unique characteristics, thematic flavors with the different civilizations as well, just based on at least the unrest cards that I have seen in here. Let's have a look at the Scythians. So again, artwork is identical, so I'm going to just stop flipping these. Glory card, Aetius, more unrest. Yeah, I like what I'm seeing so far. I have to tell you guys, it's I'm a sucker for card-driven civilization games, and this seems to be right up that alley. So I'm really excited about seeing that. Now these are the uncivilized cards. Sorry, if I can call it that. Let's see what we have in here. Now these are the same standard back. Mysticism, Oracle. So there might be somewhat neutral cards and not civilization specific. But again, lots of unique cards that we can see in there, which is obviously excellent. This is the region deck. So we can have a look at the different region cards. So you have wilderness, jungle, mountain, coast, floodplain, forest, oasis, hills, marsh, steep, river, steppy, I forget how that's pronounced, cape, woodland, sacred paths. So again, unique cards in this deck. This is the deck for unrest, fame, state, and salt discard. So we get a whole bunch of unrest cards in here, obviously. King of Kings, praiseworthy, great. Yeah, you know what? I'm really optimistic about this game, guys. It's it feels like the kind of card-driven civilization game I would be into. All right, moving on. We have the Vikings, Iceland, Combs, Greenland. Yeah, another interesting looking deck. This is the deck for the Greek faction. This is the deck for the Macedonians. So you get to play with Alexander the Great in this one as well. Oh, there we go, Alexander the Great. He gets his upgraded card, I assume. Glory, Advance. Alright, and I think we perhaps have one more faction, if I'm not mistaken, and we do. These are the Persians. You know what, the artwork is actually starting to grow on me. It is starting to grow on me. I am psyched about this one. This is, I'm trying to read this upside down. Tributary cards, so sort of like tributes. Oh, there we go. Armenians, Assyrians, Egyptians, Ionians, Skin, Olmecs, Sumerians, Aksumites, Minoans, sorry, Mauryans, Hittites. Well, I'm going to learn a little bit more about history than I do apparently at the end of this. And then we have some civilized cards. So we had to look at the uncivilized ones. These are the civilized ones apparently. So you have drama and poetry, education. So obviously lots of civilized traits or characteristics. Moneylenders, corruption. Well, yeah, I guess corruption runs in civilization, doesn't it? Metropolis, coinage, mercenaries, temple. Nice. Very, very nice. And so that is, I think, pretty much everything that we have in the box in here. Overall, good production quality. I wish the cardstock was perhaps a little bit thicker, but I'm going to be sleeving these with premium sleeves. So honestly, as long as it fits in here, I don't really care much about that. Artwork, as I said at the start, not really my taste, but as I obviously went through more and more decks, I think it grew on me, and at this point I do like this quite a bit. And overall the production quality does seem to be good. The insert is a bit of a simple one, but I think at the end of the day for a card driven game this works just fine, and you can use these to put down all the different counters you're going to be punching out from these boards over there, as it were. But otherwise, that's pretty much the unboxing for Imperium Classics. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did like the video, do give it a like and subscribe to our channel. And in the meanwhile, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.